So hopefully those of you joining us now can see that we have started recording. This meeting will be presented or will be posted on the city's website tomorrow. You can find it at hobokenandj.gov/parks. There is also a project webpage there for this project, and we'll also post any future meetings or anything related to the long-term visioning of the Monarch site on that website as well. So we started with some introductions. We'll move on to the project site. We'll talk about the short-term improvements, and then we'll do a really quick recap of long-term improvements, not just to the Monarch site, but also to the broader waterfront area. And we'll conclude with some questions. So brief introduction to the site. So this is the Monarch site in former Monarch site, and I swear we're going to find a better name for it than that. But right now, that's what we're calling it. And this is the intersection of Shipyard Lane, 15th Street, and Frank Sinatra Drive. The project site that we're looking at today, I'm not sure if you can see my cursor, but the project site is this, I'll say, upland portion of the site. We're not looking at the piers. We're only looking at short-term improvements to the area that directly connects Frank Sinatra Drive with the waterfront walkway near the Hudson T building. This, at the bottom of your screen, you'll see a panoramic view of the project site. In the top right of your screen, you'll see a star that really marks where the project site is located in Hoboken. And the area that we'll be focusing on today is really the area that borders along the roadway. Oh, sorry. Computers are responding very slowly today. I apologize. So I think I'm about to turn it over to our consulting team from GZA, but I'll just start with a rough summary of the improvements. Our goal is to provide pedestrian access, safety, and security. So we plan to replace the asphalt walkway that is along Sinatra Drive and Shipyard Lane right now with a paver walkway that resembles the remainder of the waterfront walkway. It will match the waterfront walkway to the greatest extent possible. And then we'll replace the fence along the east side of the walkway for safety. We will also maintain the guardrail for traffic safety. And we'll have some general debris removal of the site. Some of you who've been out there recently have probably seen there's a trash area that used to be used by the residential property, and that will be removed as part of this project. We'll also remove any of the debris on the site and generally grade the site so that it is flat. We will add two street trees and one street light along this new sidewalk area. And with that, I will turn it over to Meredith at GZA to kind of walk you through the site plan.
Thank you, Jennifer. So this is the site plan. So north would be to the top of this map here. So the Hudson T building is on the top of this figure. And what you're looking at here is the conceptual design for the walkway improvements. So the area shown in that dark gray shading is the area in which the new paver walkway would be located. You can see the sort of stippled area that Jennifer has her cursor on right now is the existing asphalt walkway. So you can see that the paver walkway will be wider than the existing asphalt walkway is now. Starting at the southern end, as you're coming off Frank Sinatra Drive and turning the corner, that walkway width will be about 20 feet wide. That's the widest it can be at that location because there's a transformer located right there at the corner. And then it will move north in sort of an arched fashion and then extend the width of the connection up towards the T building. There's, as you may know, there's stairs and a ramp to the T building walkway. And so this paver walkway will be that entire width. So I think that's about 43 feet wide at that northern end. And the design also includes an installation of 2 trees. You can see in the sort of green tree-like bubbles there. and then also a new street light that's will be located just past where the guardrail is. The existing guardrail that is there now will stay. And the light colored area on the walkway, that is where there is a existing curb cut, and then will be a continued curb cut that allows driveway access, and there's a gate so that maintenance vehicles and such will have access to the site. So that will be concrete, matched as best as possible to the remaining paver walkway. So that the reason for that being so that trucks can drive over it. And so as Jennifer had said, there will be a fence on the eastern side of the walkway for security and safety. And then there will also be new fence installed along the Frank Sinatra Drive side as well, again, for security and safety. And as you can see on this figure, up towards the north end of the site, there used to be a shed area, if you will, that will all be taken out, as well as the small tree that was there, because the walkway will be in that location at this point. And I'm just looking, I think that covers pretty much the extent of what will be done at this location. And if you go to the next slide, where we have a few photos of it. So these photos on the top left, that red area, that is the approximate extent of the width of the walkway. So you can see, again, it extends onto what is now the existing gravel portion. The bottom two figures show the same thing. The one on the bottom left is looking towards the T building, and then the one on the bottom right is looking the opposite direction towards the south and southeast. So the two figures on the right are examples of the of tree planters. The photo all the way on the far right are photos of tree planters as they exist on Frank Sinatra Drive to the south of the site. And the one next to that is a smaller tree planter that's on the south side of Frank Sinatra Drive, in front of the residential building there. So these are just meant to be shown as examples of what the tree planters would look like. As Jennifer had mentioned, the design is going to match the existing walkway as best as possible, given the width of the walkway and the size available. The smaller tree planter shown on the left figure is more in line with the size of the tree planters that will be, the two tree planters that will be placed at the site. Can I hand it over to Jennifer?
Sure. So just to provide a little bit about the project timeline, where we go from here, we are currently in the final design stages. As some of you may know, the city code does require a public meeting prior to the city taking any action, such as awarding a construction contract on the modification of a new park. So we do plan to, after this public meeting, take any comments, feedback that you may have, consider any design changes we may need to make, and advance the project through the permitting phase. After permitting, we'll proceed to bidding in May and hopefully a contract award in June. So we think this is a very short construction project. I think we'll really complete construction in July, and all of this could go even faster, assuming that our permits are expedited or reviewed in a timely fashion. So this timeline again is I think conservative. And with that, I really wanted to have an opportunity to highlight some of the other waterfront improvements that are going on. We have our city engineer here and our director of transportation, because there are so many improvements going on the waterfront in the future, and we wanted to give you a sneak peek at all of them for those that you haven't heard about. So if you have any other questions about these, I would say that at the very end of the meeting, let's discuss questions on this project first. But if you do have any questions moving forward on the other projects, we can briefly touch upon those as well, either in the chat or through raising your hand. These additional improvements include Sinatra Drive from 4th Street to 11th Street. The planning and design is currently underway for complete streets improvements there. Sinatra Drive from Pier A to 4th Street. We have completed design for upgrading the bikeway to a modern standard with new complete streets improvements. We plan to go out to bid on that project actually this month for construction in spring later this year. We also have received a grant from NOAA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, for the removal of abandoned and derelict vessels in Hoboken Cove. We are actually currently out to bid on that project and plan to undertake that boat removal later this spring, ideally in May. And then the rehabilitation of the pavers and the bulkhead at Pier 16. That's the land pier that is directly north of Harborside Park near the border with Weehawken. That pier has been cautioned off for the last about year and a half. And while we have been working on design to rehabilitate the bulkhead in that area. So we plan to rehabilitate the bulkhead as well as restore all of those pavers along that walkway. Some are missing, some are settled. And all of that should occur later this year as well. As a prelude to the construction of Cove Park as part of the Rebuild by Design project. And then lastly, of course, we've already talked about it today, later this year, we plan to undertake a visioning and community iterative design process for the former Monarch site, really start the concept design process later this year.
Yes, Jennifer, if I may add for Sinatra Drive from 4th and 11th, we just awarded the contract towards the end of December and had a kickoff meeting recently in January. Right now, the consultant is doing the survey of Sinatra Drive between 4th and 11th. And the goal is to have some preliminary concept plans to bring to the community of what we're planning to put in Sinatra, which is basically one of the grants that we got from the DOT is for a protected bike lane on Sinatra, but we still have to put the concepts together and bring it out to the community for input to see where we're going with this. So that's what I wanted to share. This is going to be a long design process. We need to have finalized plans by July and hopefully award a contract by October, November, and start construction in the spring of 2023.
Great, thank you, Olga. With that, I would open it up for questions. I think let's perhaps start, if anybody has a question that they want to ask, you can feel free to raise your hand in the panelist window, and then we will call on you by name. In the meantime, just going to scroll through the chat really quickly to see some comments. I see some comments related to the permanent design, which is a process that we'll be undertaking later this year. And questions about whether this recording will be posted. As noted, it will be posted on our city website tomorrow, hobokenandj.gov/parks. And I will say thank you so much to the resident who said this is great news. Has the acquisition of Union Dry Dock been completed? Not yet. I would anticipate, future notice on that soon. But no, there has been an agreement, and that was announced, I believe, actually in late 2021.
Jennifer, there's a question on the Q&A section from Adrian Concepcion. Removal of abandoned derelict vessels in Weehawken Cove. Are there current or planned changes to the existing code to mitigate the risk of this happening again in the future, i.e. vessels being abandoned?
I think actually Director Sharp would be able to speak best to the current city code. I'm not sure if he's able to unmute.
I think he's—
Hi, can you all hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, so there are provisions in the city code that require anyone docking a vessel to provide a performance bond. They're going to have it there for a certain period of time. and that's to protect against abandoning the vessel and forcing the city to cover the cost of removal in the river. It's an imperfect system that we currently have legislatively because it's on the honor system. If somebody doesn't come to the city to provide that performance bond, we don't have a system in place that is tracking vessel activity in the cove 24/7. But bigger picture, as we go through the removal of the existing vessels in the cove, we are considering various strategies to try to prevent this from happening again in the future. We don't have anything concrete now, though.
Great, thank you, Ryan. Jennifer, can you share the slide of the proposed improvements? The other one, I think, with the picture, maybe.
Sure.
Is this the one that people like with the actual picture or the plan? I think it's for Thomas Smith. Ed, can you please cover again the location of the chain link fences? Where will fences be on the first phase?
So if you can see my cursor, the fence will be basically on this eastern side of the red walkway. So if you see on the map, the fencing will be along this side. Now that is what I'll call a temporary chain link fence until the permanent improvements to the the full project site have been completed. Someone also asked why we cannot provide access to the full area of the gravel site right now. We really haven't assessed, the bulkhead along the eastern side of the site. We just think for safety and security purposes, we're not prepared to open up this area of the site at this time. There is an electrical transformer, there's an existing vault. So, we think from a safety and security standpoint that it is best to keep the site access to the walkway at this time, but we are certainly going to evaluate future public access as we go through the design process for the permanent park.
Laura Edelman, will that be a regular traffic light for cars coming down 15th Street or Chart Lane? No, the light that you see there is a street light to provide light, not a traffic signal light.
And to respond to Mr. Gaynor, yes, the current scope is paver walkway, fencing, the installation of 2 trees and 1 street light.
From one issue with fencing is the green lighting. Visibility issues surrounding the corner, especially since multi-purpose walkway used by pedestrians, strollers, and bikes. Is this person referring to the screening, Jennifer?
Yeah, and we actually decided to not go with fence screening in this particular location because we want to preserve the views of New York City, the views of the Hudson River, and also the nature that's developing on the site itself. So we're not currently proposing fence screening. We're looking at actually transparent chain link fence.
This is a great question from Jeffrey Henning, and maybe Meredith can answer. I haven't seen it, but what is the projected cost of the temporary improvements at the Monarch site, and what impact, if any, financially, will it have on residents? Question mark. Meredith, do we have a engineer's cost estimate for the walkway, the pavers, and the trees?
So this concept plan that you're viewing, we're in the design process, and as part of that, we are preparing a cost estimate, but we haven't completed that task yet. So we do not currently have an estimate that we can share.
Okay, and we have it, we'll share it. Jennifer, in terms of covering the cost for this project, do we have a grant, or will this be capital funded?
So we actually have a variety of different ways that we can consider funding this project. The first is that there were funds available in the settlement associated with the Monarch agreement that may be available for this. We also actually included some additional funding in our most recent multi-purpose capital improvement bond for parks that could allow for funding for this project. So, once we have the cost estimate, we will evaluate the funding source, but it is certainly anticipated that there will be no tax impact to this because it will come from other existing funding sources.
This is another question from our Councilwoman Fisher. Is there funds in the city's open space trust fund for this?
There could be. That could be one of the potential locations that we seek to use funding for, but I think we will determine exactly which funding sources once we have the cost estimate.
Very good. Thank you very much. Jeff Carroll has a question. Will the Shunk family be removed and relocated by wildlife service as opposed to left on the site or killed?
So Jeff, I can't specifically speak to that skunk family, but I can tell you that we'll engage our Director of Health and Human Services, regarding that question. Skunks are not particularly in our purview, but it is something that has come up and been discussed. So we will handle that as we go through the project.
Meredith, is there anything else you would like to share with? Well, there we go. We have more questions. Never mind. Can you go over the bike lane plan? Did we, Chris, did we share a bike lane plan for this?
No, I don't think this has really anything to do with the bike lane per se. This is exclusively regarding the waterfront walkway, which is a multi-use path, but not a bikeway in the truest sense of the term.
Chris, and I think what you're referring is from when we had the last slide of future projects. We're working on the Sinatra Drive, and one of the grants was for a protected bike lane, but we will be talking about that project as we move forward in the concept design phase. But yes, the Sinatra Drive will have a protected bike lane. Then we have another question from Stephen Palika. I know that this meeting is to discuss the temporary pop-up walkway, but I have a very basic question related to the eventual final plan. Is it intended that the final plan will incorporate the two piers north of 14th Street Pier?
So it is intended that the final plan would incorporate the entire Monarch property. So that is the piers to the north of the site where we currently are. I'm not sure exactly if he's referring to the piers to the east of the site or to the north of the site, but generally speaking to the north of the site. I think that my previous slide might have a better map. Let's see. It doesn't really, but it will include the entire, Monarch site. So that does include the two piers. And is there any signage planned to say no motorbikes on the walkway? That is a very interesting question that we've encountered in other areas of the waterfront walkway, and it is something that we are considering as part of our comprehensive signage update. We're currently under design for signage related to the Northwest Resiliency Park, which will actually be the model for park signage citywide. And we will be coming to the community with those signage recommendations later this year as well. So that is something we can certainly consider as part of our overall signage approach. We're looking to have consistent signage citywide for our parks. I don't think I've seen anybody with raised hands. So if anybody has any further questions, you can provide them in either the chat or the Q&A.
There's an additional statement from Stephen Palika. I'm not sure how to describe it, but other piers that is directly parallel to 14th Street Pier and north of it. Is that not going to be included in the Monarch plan? And if not, is there a plan for that?
Yeah, I think this question would be best answered by the actual design process itself. I'm not really prepared to discuss the full design process at this time until we, can provide better figures illustrating the boundaries of that design. But we will seek to answer that question before the design process commences by providing better mapping on our project website.
And by that, Jennifer, what will be the expectation for not we already know the timeline for this walkway and fencing, but for the overall project, what is the expectation? 2 years, 3 years? And funding?
Again, I can't answer that question yet because we're not there yet. I think that our plan is to move ahead with the concept design at the end of this year, but we have not determined a timeline past that because we don't know what that concept design is going to be. As soon as we have a better idea of the vision for the site, the conceptual design, the preliminary cost estimate, I'll be able to answer that question better.
Sounds good. I don't see any more questions, and people cannot raise their hand here.
I believe they should be able to raise their hand, but perhaps everybody likes typing instead. Are you going to be collecting input from the public to help define the concept design? Yes, that's the entire purpose of the concept design process, is a community-driven design. So yes, we will definitely do that. Thank you, Councilwoman. Great. Well, if anybody has further questions following this meeting, you can certainly contact myself, Olga, or Director Sharp. I have our contact information here. So I'll adjourn the meeting with that, and feel free to follow up at the project website. Go to hobokenNJ.gov/parks. You'll see project websites for all of our ongoing and soon to be future project pages will be listed there as well. So you can get more information on any specific project. You can find our contact information to ask any additional questions you may have. And we look forward to going through this process with you. So thank you all for attending this evening. We greatly appreciate it. And we'll be seeing you at the walkway later this summer.
Thank you.
Have a great evening.